Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Carol. Great to see everybody. All right. So for those whom I've not met, my name's Adam Gould. I am one of the, I guess possibly the newest XCOM member. Thanks for having me. I'm also one of the ride leaders for the Downtown Breakaway, one of our sort of premier Wednesday nights road rides that happens from spring through late summer. So I'm here today to talk to you a bit about leading big rides. A lot of this stuff is going to be based in the ride leader guidelines and some of what Stephen has already gone over. But I did want to emphasize a few points about the larger rides. So first off, what is a big ride? There's no hard number for that. My general sense is that a big ride is anything that's got more than about 15 or so riders, give or take. A dozen, 15, maybe up to 20. Depends on people's experience level. A 20-person ride of really experienced riders who know each other well might not feel very large. A 10-person ride with a lot of newer folks might feel much more like a big ride. But bigger rides are a great way to kind of demo our support of cycling, the I guess the power and popularity of the sport. But it does come with kind of some unique challenges or special considerations that I will go into now. So the first thing that you really want to pay attention to, and to Stephen's point earlier, is the pre-ride briefing. A larger ride with a whole bunch of people is really only as good as that pre-ride talk, because it's where you set the vibe. So you, in addition to all of the data that you give out on the ride calendar, talking about pace and distance and that sort of thing, you want to really set kind of a friendly tone for the ride. Um, Introduce yourself, introduce the club, and introduce the other ride leaders. Now, when you're doing a larger ride, more than say, am I too loud in the back there? Okay. You can barely hear me. Okay, well, I'll project more then. When you're doing a larger ride, so like I'm giving a pre-ride briefing at a big ride. Then is that what we should do? Okay, let's go for it then. Alrighty. Um, so when you're leading a larger ride, I always recommend having more than one ride leader whenever that's humanly possible. I have led rides of 17 or so, 25 people out of local shops before just by myself. It's doable, but it's hard and it's really not ideal. It was a hills ride out of a local shop, and we basically had to stop and regroup at the top of every single climb, which is a great way to keep people together, but not necessarily a great way to get in a lot of riding in a relatively short time. So more than one ride leader, I'd say about one leader for every 5 to 10 people is ideal, but really as many as you can get together to keep that rider to ride leader ratio down is great. Again, really want to point out if the uh, ride is no drop, advertise that and tell people ahead of time how you're going to keep to it. It's always good to have a sweep, even if you have multiple ride leaders. And if you have regroup points like water stops, coffee stops, bathroom stops, call those out at the pre-ride briefing. Really, just what we've all learned of as the Swiss cheese method of protecting yourself from dropped riders, because nobody wants to be the dropped one on the ride. We've probably all been there. I've certainly been there, and it's just not the most fun. So also during the briefing, you're going to want to go into a brief preview of the routes, who your sweep is, again, any regroups you have, resupply points, stores you're going to pass, that kind of thing. Really important to flag any known hazards. If there's been storms that you know, ideally you're going to know your route pretty well. Downtown Breakaway, we ride basically the same route with additional length and variations each week. We all know the route pretty well, so if you know there's going to be gravel washouts or branches down likely in a certain area, let people know about that ahead of time. Also, any high stress roads, bigger traffic roads, so people can be prepared for it. On those larger rides, you're often going to have a range of skill levels. Some people are going to want to open up the throttle if they can on, let's say, Oakland Drive. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Oakland, Peter? You know about Oakland Drive, right? This guy knows what I'm talking about. So anywhere people can kind of let out their inner greyhound if they want. Bring that up ahead of time. Then take a moment to go over your safety collegiality practices. Remind people to call out hazards and car back, car front, car left, potholes, that kind of thing. Remind folks just basic safety stuff like no half wheeling, be friendly, don't be a creep. I think this is a point that Stephen mentioned too, but one of the things I always love about how Rudy does DTB briefings is he asks about new riders, who's new here this week, who's either new to the club, new to the area, or just doing the ride for the first time. You want to make those people feel welcome. Maybe give them a round of applause if that's your vibe, but make sure that they know that you are happy that they're there. Ask them if they are used to group rides, if they're looking for a ride partner, and encourage people to talk to one another out of the ride. And then lastly, Carol made the point that registration is required for peddlers rides. Always good to remind people, especially at the larger ones, maybe people are bringing friends from out of town or who just haven't done the ride before. Get that confirmation ahead of time that everybody's registered. And I don't actually know how to do this, but with the Club Express app, right, you can do last minute registrations for anybody who needs to. Just to protect the riders, protect yourself, protect the club. So during the ride, safety has to come first because safety leads to fun, right? Um, you want to really emphasize communication on those bigger rides. Communicate, communicate, communicate. Um, Again, have multiple riders and multiple leaders and a dedicated sweep whenever possible. And if you find on your ride that it's a little bit like you're herding cats and you don't have enough ride leaders for the number of riders you have, feel free to talk to folks who know the route, who know the ride, who are confident in gravel or road or whatever the surface may be. Deputize those folks. Say, hey, Dave, John, can you please keep an eye out for this group who's riding at such and such a pace? You know the route? Yes, great. Because we could really use your help. That's a really good way to A, make sure that no one gets left behind, and B, start to maybe train some future volunteers. Yeah? One of the things about being in a larger group, while it's a lot of fun to be out there with a couple of dozen other people, it does sometimes lead to motorist conflicts. People see a lot of riders and they think, what the hell are all those bikers doing in my way? Mostly they'll be careful in going around you. Sometimes they will not. Sometimes they'll drive up alongside you in the wrong lane and start to yell swears and abuse at you. Do not engage with these people. It's really hard to do. I'm terrible at it when I'm commuting. But you got to remember that you're out there representing the club. One of the best pieces of advice that I got was actually on a Rafa ride out of Georgetown last fall. One of the ride leaders said, I don't know if you all know Jersey from Rafa. You are not going to teach anyone a lesson today. If someone shouts at you, honks at you, okay, thanks, and move on with your day. Maybe they'll come to a public meeting about bike lanes and you can talk to them about it later. Maybe you invite them out for a beer. But don't yell the abuse back at them because it's not good for the club and it's never just good to escalate in situations like that. Lastly, on a similar subject, don't hesitate to call out bad behavior. On larger rides, mostly people are going to be cool, but every now and then you'll have folks doing things that are unsafe, that are directly going against the established vibe or even the guidelines of club rides. And it can feel really awkward to confront those people. I think that's maybe one of the scenarios that we're going to talk about a little bit later. But as a ride leader, you are empowered to confront those dudes, and it is mostly dudes. Sorry to say. And let them know that if it continues, they're not going to be welcome on the ride anymore. So that could be breaking out of an established pace line to try to chase another one, just yelling at people for no reason, even if it's just out of a general intensity that the person brings, commenting on the bodies of other riders or ride leaders. Those things are not acceptable. and they're not something that should ever happen at a peddler's ride. So if you see stuff like that, if you feel comfortable intervening too, otherwise feel free to take it up with a club officer because there are guidelines around stuff like that. Like I said, don't be a creep, and we also don't suffer creeps. Yeah. All right. Lastly, you give me a flashlight. Okay. It's always great to have a post-ride debrief, official or not, for Downtown Breakaway. Again, we usually end up either here at the lovely City State, sometimes at Lost Gen Brewing, sometimes over at Aslan. So that might look like an after-ride social hour, which is, again, a great thing to mention up front. Or it might just be some of the ride leaders are talking about the ride a couple of days later on a WhatsApp chat or something like that. It's always a good idea to debrief about the ride because not everyone will have seen everything if you're 20, 30, 40 people out there. So you want to confer with the ride leadership about any drops, anyone who had to bail, either because they had an emergency or they just weren't feeling it or anything like that. If there were safety incidents, what happened with who, and what action was taken. I think maybe Danielle is going to talk to us a little bit more about safety incidents on rides. Awesome. And again, if you're having a beer after the ride or a kombucha or whatever, talk to those new folks. Ask how it went for them. Invite them back. Tell them they're welcome anytime. And lastly, just have fun. Big rides are great. That's all I got. John.
How do you handle somebody showing up without a helmet or without brakes?
I am so glad you asked that question, John. Potomac Peddler's policy is that if you do not have a helmet, then you do not go on the ride.
And brakes?
And we have a policy about brakes. I believe in brakes, but I've ridden with people on fixies before. And Stephen, Carol, no?
Never heard of it.
Use your judgment. If they seem like they know what they're doing, then that is a fair point. Does that answer your question, bud? Awesome. Anybody else? All right. Well, that is my time. Thank y'all.